the time. Your gateway to the world. AFR. American Freedom Radio. Give it to them.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Tuesday. It is July 23, 2013. Hope you had a beautiful weekend. We sure have a beautiful show in store for you tonight and the rest of the week, as a matter of fact, here at Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Thanks for joining us here tonight. And if you remember, Heather Rhoades, our gardening expert from Gardening Know-How. She is normally joining us the first Tuesday of the month, but we had a little schedule change with the first Tuesday and Wednesday of the month, and they were rescheduled for this week. So, woohoo! We can't miss our gardening show, especially this time of year. Her website, her website is gardeningknowhow.com. That's gardeningknowhow.com, where her and a team of other garden experts help to answer all of your questions on various gardening topics. Probably anything you can think about may have already be answered. If not, just send them a message and they will answer it for you. Of course, we do have the opportunity to hear from her live here once a month on Soul Journeys Radio. So if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call tonight at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. Woohoo! So good to have you here tonight, Heather. How are you doing?
I'm good. It is prime gardening season. How could I not be better?
Yeah. Excellent. How's your garden growing?
It's doing well. I had a lovely meal tonight, a Thai salad. It was very tasty. And most of it came from the garden, which is always fun.
Ooh, tell us all about it.
I had lettuce and cabbage and carrots, and herbs, mint, basil, cilantro. So yummy.
Yay! All right. Awesome. So you're eating now. I know you have a little bit later season than we do down here. So have you been able to, you probably get mad when we brag about all the stuff we're eating like a month before you, huh?
I know. We're only getting cherry tomatoes right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but soon there will be full-size tomatoes, and corn and delicious things like that. So,
good.
Not too much longer.
Oh, how exciting. What a beautiful time of year. And how's the rain and all that situation working out for you? You getting enough water?
We have been getting so much rain, it's not even funny, because we're now at the level where we get, if it starts to rain even a little, we get flood warnings because the ground is so saturated.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we've had some extreme temperatures and heat, so it just turns into a sauna here. So,
Mm-hmm.
It's good for plants, some plants, but for people, it's a little wilting.
Oh, okay. Well, we had like the opposite, like a total drought here. I guess that's why I ended up with the only living woodchuck in the county. It was the only thing that was green. But, it's so funny. So I go out of town for the weekend and, it takes me like 2 hours a day to water my garden. And, I like to do it, but at the same time, it's like, can I pretty please have fresh rainwater? 'Cause I totally notice a difference in the plants. You can give them all the love you want, but if mommy's not peeing on them, it's just not the same. So I worked it out to where I had my friend come over to water my containers and, get it all done for me this weekend. And it rained! Yay! Finally. So I guess that's the trick. Just get out of town, stop bitching about it, and let it flow.
There you go. Works every time, right?
I guess so. Maybe I'll have to get out of town more often. Goodness.
that's your call out to your listeners. She's looking for somewhere to go, so send your emails.
Yes. And a plane to, actually I prefer to drive because I got a doggy and all that good stuff.
That's right.
And I like to bring my coolers and my fresh juice. Oh my God, it was so funny. So I brought like some salsa from the garden and black beans and, you know, all this garden fresh, delicious food. And they're like, what? You're going to dinner and you're bringing your own food and your own juice? Well, taste it and you'll understand why. I mean, we're stuck in this hotel and convention center, and it's one thing to be stuck there and listening to speakers, but to also be stuck there listening to speakers and eating their food, I don't know about that.
See, most of the time I prefer to eat at home because it's better than what you get going out. So.
Yeah. Exactly. So I did bring enough to share, so.
See, you learned in kindergarten, you followed the rules, you're good.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I am so glad your garden is producing and you're able to eat from it now. I personally had a little bit of a break, but thankfully I was just kind of staggering my planting, planting a few new things every couple weeks or whatever. So when my garden was completely decimated by Woody Woodchuck, I went without greens and things for a while, but I'm back to picking my own greens today, as a matter of fact. And it looks like my peppers and tomatoes that were completely destroyed are coming back. My vines are not. So I had to replant all of those. And the only herb that's not coming back is cilantro.
Not surprising.
I know. Well, it's kind of hard to grow in this heat anyways, but.
Yeah.
Oh, what a fun experience, though. We sent Woody off to a better place.
A stew bowl. A delicious looking stew bowl. That is a better place.
Yeah, some of it might be in the sewer system, via my colon. Oh man, but anyways, I guess we should get to the topic. You mentioned tomatoes. You're getting tomatoes or cherry tomatoes, and you're about to get big ripe ones. And that reminded me of a question I have been posed a couple times recently, where people were wondering why their trees or tomato plants would just be beautiful and lush and grow 5 feet tall, but still not producing any tomatoes. So maybe we can start talking about tomatoes.
Sure. That happens due to an overabundance of nitrogen in the soil. You have the three macronutrients, your NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So those three things are what the majority of a plant needs to grow. Nitrogen controls leaf growth. Phosphorus controls root and fruit growth. And potassium is like this mysterious thing. They don't know why plants need it. This is really true. They don't know why plants need potassium, but they know if they don't get it, they don't grow well.
Okay.
So typically we get this question a lot too. Be about squash vines or tomatoes or a wide variety of plants. The plant's beautiful, it's huge, it's gorgeous, but there's no flowers. That means you have too much nitrogen. And typically if somebody's emailing me about this from a vegetable garden standpoint, 99% of the time I can email them back and say, you used manure, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, oh yeah, we use manure. Manure is very high in nitrogen. It tends to be a little bit lacking in the phosphorus. So you get beautiful lush plants with very few flowers, and poor root growth. So if you're going to be using a manure, you want to balance it out with, some phosphorus. So, bone meal is a good source for phosphorus to add to your manure, and that'll help balance things out. As always, don't assume if you're having a problem, get your soil tested. $5 from UMass will get your soil tested, and that'll give you an idea of really where you're lacking. If you're in a pinch, add in some phosphorus-rich fertilizer. That'll help bring up the phosphorus and balance things out more so that the plant starts to bloom more and you get more fruit.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Short of buying like just a commercial fertilizer or something, and even if it does have an organic label on it, are there certain other additives that we can add, such as, kelp or alfalfa or something like that that would be, high in phosphorus or potassium or something other?
So bone meal is great for that.
So bone meal?
Yeah, bone meal is great for that. Check your labels. Kelp is great for your micronutrients. Mm-hmm. So if your soil tests come back and they're coming back as being balanced, but you're still getting poor growth, things like kelp can be great for your micronutrients. And people, we posted an article this past week about iron, plants needing iron. And somebody, commented on the article saying that, I didn't even know plants needed things like iron.
Yeah.
Plants need just like people need a wide variety of micronutrients to grow well. So, that's why organic fertilizers are so important. Because things like kelp and alfalfa meal and things like that, they contain a lot of those micronutrients.
Okay.
That can also help boost your growth of your plants. And you're not going to find that in most commercial fertilizers. And then if you do find a commercial fertilizer or a chemical fertilizer that advertises that they do the micronutrients, it's going to be dicey on how well they cover that.
Yeah. So. Okay. I have never bought a commercial fertilizer in my life, including organic ones. I just, I don't know. Last time I was at the feed store to pick up some DE and kelp, though, I decided, let's look. And the guy was so sweet. He's like, it's normally 40, but hey, I'll give it to you for 25. And I was thinking, I'll try not to be such a garden snob and, I'll check it out. But I was reading the ingredients and they're all like corn, soy, all of these things that we know here in America mostly are GMO. And ultimately I decided against purchasing it, but it would be cool to just, I don't know, not have to think about it and buy a bag of some good shit, man.
Yeah, I got some good fertilizer for you here. Hold open your trench coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you do need to look at the labels. This goes for your food too. A lot of people don't realize this when it comes to buying organic. We're going to put that in quotes.
Yeah.
The USDA definition of organic is really big. So even if you think you're buying organic, sometimes you're not. Yeah. And I mean, not in the true sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if anybody out there is interested in learning more about commercial food processes, Michael Pollan is great for that. Read his books. Gives you a wonderful insight into how the industrialized food system works within the United States. But yeah, I mean, you do need to check your labels before you buy something. Mm-hmm. There's some good products out there. I can't give names just because it's against our policy, but check your labels. If you can find it at the source, that's great. If you live near the ocean and you can gather up your own sea kelp, there's plenty of your own seaweed. There's plenty of directions online about how to use that. Composting certainly helps, get those nutrients back in your soil. Manure, although like I said, you need to balance it out with some phosphorus, in the form of something like bone meal. Or just mixing it in really well with regular compost. And also, be aware of what kind of of manure you're using. Your small rodent manure, gerbils, mice, that sort of animal is going to be much less in nitrogen
A
than,
small rodent
say,
bone meal? No.
yeah, small rodent manure. Small rodent manure. Rabbit, it's going to be lower in nitrogen than than like chicken manure. Chicken manure, nitrogen through the roof. You can't even use chicken manure on your garden unless you've let it mellow for a year because the nitrogen is so high. So, be aware of what you're using in the garden. That'll help as well. Mellowing helps significantly as well. Most of the time you see your nitrogen issues where they grow too much and you use manure if the manure is too fresh. So, make sure that you compost your manure before you put it on the garden. These things will help.
Okay.
Because manure is a great additive for your garden.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to discourage anybody from using it. It is great. You just have to be aware of how do you best use it before you put it on your garden.
Definitely. And I just posted, I saw that you had also done an article about this very topic, what causes lots of flowers and no tomatoes on tomato plants. Again, that's at gardeningknowhow.com. I just posted it in the chat, though. If you are joining us there at souljourneysradio.com, it is that time. Stay tuned. We will be right back with Heather Rhoades here on Soul Journeys Radio.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And I double dog dare anyone to attempt to read our chat without laughing, whether you're doing a show or not. So anyways, I love you guys. Thank you. So we are here tonight with Heather Rhoades of gardeningknowhow.com, and she's given us a good education on what might be the issue if we have these beautiful big tomato plants and it's just not producing, and some things we can do as well. So, and yeah, I wanted to bring up, we were talking during the break, that I bought, I'm sure I shared with you a few months ago, on all these beautiful brand new heirloom tomatoes I had never grown. And so I contacted you, Heather, I don't know, like a week or so ago, and I'm like, what's up? You know, I have some, they're like 5 feet tall, big, beautiful, producing, but I have these other tomato plants that, you know, are stuck at like 6 or 8 inches. What the heck is going on? And you informed me what?
The heirloom tomatoes are developed for different climates. So if you have a cold weather heirloom tomato, it's going to perform better for you when the weather starts to get cooler, which is why it's kind of fun to grow heirloom tomatoes, because you can plant some that do well in hot weather, and then you get tomatoes when it's hot, and then when the weather starts to cool down, your cold weather tomatoes start to produce for you, and you have tomatoes all the time, which is, you know, not something you can normally get from the hybrids.
Yeah, and that's really cool. I really did not even take that into consideration when I bought the seeds. And, when you mentioned that, I went and looked at them and I'm like, oh, duh, you're so right. They're all like Russian and, Serbia and I can't remember all the other countries,
Right.
but clearly much colder than here. So I guess I'm kind of stoked, that I'll just, they're kind of producing at a perfect rate for me and just the few people that I get to feed, and it appears they'll be producing not much longer now, so they're not all at once, and it's like, can freeze, dehydrate, do it all, in this 2-week window. So yeah, that's really, really cool.
And you're probably getting some pretty interesting different flavor combinations, as well as different looking tomatoes. It is one of the things that you do trade off when you grow heirlooms. The hybrids are bred to produce. But they produce a pretty baseline tomato flavor. Your heirlooms, they're not going to produce as much, but you're going to get some pretty unique flavors within your tomatoes as well as the look of them. And, always say that looks don't matter. They do. So, I always liked, when I have people over for dinner, I love being able to serve, a green tomato variety, which is not an unripe tomato variety. It's actually a green tomato. And, see people look at it in amazement and try it. Or some of the multi-hued, that's a lot of fun too, to put on a plate.
And people are just like, what the heck? What is that?
Yeah.
What's
a black
wrong
tomato?
with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody's never seen a black tomato, they really are in awe of it. Because or a white tomato, that's the other end of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have to make your choices in your garden. If you're looking for big production, you're probably gonna want to go with a hybrid. If you're looking for trying something new, you're still going to get, like you said, you get enough for you and your friends, right?
Yeah.
It's just that you're not, carting off basketfuls to your neighbors to try to get them.
Please eat these now before I have to eat you too.
So and those are choices that you make in your garden. Those are personal choices that you make.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with choosing one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I will reiterate, hybrid does not mean GMO. Hybrid is breeding, two varieties together in the normal fashion, no science or chemicals involved. So, you're not going against nature, when you go with a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
So, decide for yourself, but I do encourage people to try heirlooms because they are fun. They are important to keep alive.
Definitely.
And once you get involved with, say heirloom tomatoes, then you move on to all sorts of heirloom plants, and then maybe even heirloom animals. So.
And then you need an heirloom house, with a much bigger yard because, Oh man, I'm so screwed. There are just so many things I want to try and I'm so out of room and oh man, it's so fun. It is so addicting. It's ridiculous. And I tried to do better this year, of keeping, kind of a chart of where I planted what. But after we got done snowing in May and by the time I got them in the ground, waited for the moon and such, I decided, screw it. Let's just put them in there and make it all a bunch of surprises again. So I don't know what they are. And I guess I have a cute little, yellow cherry tomatoes. I have no idea what they are.
Are they pear shaped or are they round?
No, they're not the pears. They're round.
So yeah, there's a wide variety, but I'm sure they'll taste good.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, it's mystery salad, mystery salsa at my house.
I've had a few years where either labels got mixed up or I did write the names in indelible ink on a certain type of surface, and apparently permanent marker isn't as permanent as you think.
Yeah.
So, there's been a few years where I also have not known exactly what I was eating, but they were always tasty. So
That's great. Let me ask you this, Heather. I'm really learning a lot with having that critter in my garden this year. Things I didn't know, for example, have you ever like pruned a pepper plant?
You can. Peppers and tomatoes, we get that question a lot. It's a personal choice for the gardener. Both sides have pros and cons. The anti-pruning side says that if you prune, you're opening up wounds that don't necessarily expose the plant to possible pathogens that can affect the plant.
Yeah.
On the other side, when you prune, you're taking away some of the stuff that the plant doesn't really need. Especially on tomatoes, they get those suckers in between the junctions.
Mm-hmm.
And the theory is that it creates it creates more production on the plant to remove the suckers.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that there have been studies done on this, and you really are caught in a catch-22. Yes, if you remove the suckers, you do get a higher production rate from a plant. But if you remove the suckers and prune a plant, you also are exposing it to more pathogens, so you have a higher mortality rate with the plant.
Okay.
So you have to decide which end you want to go with.
Yeah, see, the reason I'm asking, I'm not a pruner myself. I mean, I have tried, after watching a bunch of videos, like, oh, maybe pull the suckers and see what happens, or maybe I can stick them in dirt and, make another tree. But I tend to just let things go. But with my friend in my garden this year, he pruned a whole lot of stuff for me. And, like last week, or before I left town, my peppers and some of my tomatoes in particular were looking like, oh, they're never going to come back. So fortunately, I was able to buy a couple plants from Hertz Nursery and, one other place. I can't remember the name of it right now. Never bought from them. But they were the only ones that had live plants after the 4th of July, and figured I didn't want to wait to see if my plants would come back or not. Well, with the rain and me being gone and then going out to my garden today and seeing what happened, holy freaking smokes. They're like big, huge bushes now. So, like Woody, yeah, maybe he, destroyed things temporarily and took away my immediate food supply. But by the looks of it today, I have pepper bushes that are like 3-4 feet in diameter now.
Yeah, it's no different than if you pinch back your herbs. I mean, you pinch back your herbs to make a bigger plant, right?
Yes.
The same thing happens with your pepper and tomatoes. Peppers and tomatoes are delicate plants, though, and you lucked out. You didn't get a pathogen, and that's great, and that's why people prune.
Yeah, okay.
It's just that if you do it regularly, and that's why I said it's a personal choice.
Okay. I wouldn't even know how to do it on my own, Heather. I wouldn't know where to I know where to clip my basil or the rest of my, or basically anything you just cut anywhere and they're going to keep growing. But I had never even considered pruning a pepper or tomato or anything else. And
yeah, and you probably will see delayed fruit production. That's the other downside to pruning, especially as dramatically as Mr. Woodchuck did for you. You're going to see delayed fruit production.
Yeah.
With peppers, that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're going to be planning on bringing them indoors for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
You may not get as much this year, but you'll get, lots and lots of peppers come April or May of next year.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things you have to make a personal choice, or you have to deal with what Mr. Woodchuck does. And you lucked out. It came out fine, and that's why people prune. You know, you
great.
could have as easily ended up with a whole bunch of dead plants, and that's why people don't prune. So,
Yeah.
it's really just a 50-50. Think about it for your own personal garden and make a choice.
You know what? I'll just let Mother Nature do it whenever she wants, however she wants. I'm cool with that. And apparently it looks like whatever Woody did for it, it's all coming back. I mean, it was kind of depressing going from being able to feed 20 people a day to not even being able to feed myself. Yeah. But here we are, fast forward a couple weeks later, and it's like, wow, that's cool. However, this is another thing I learned. I didn't quite know what to do with the vines. I was hoping that maybe if I buried them, that they would reroot and they would come back. And that's not happening. And when I say vines, I'm referring to squash, cucumbers, cantaloupe, watermelon, pumpkins, etc. So those are not coming back. So I had to replant all of my fruit and squashes, and hopefully I end up with some, maybe not, and whatever. I guess we'll see. It's all a learning experience, right, Heather? Isn't that how we learn?
Yes.
Screw it all up, and
that's, and that's part of the fun of gardening. It's part of the heartbreak of gardening, but it's also the fun of gardening.
Yeah.
Is that you're always learning. There's always something new to try and do and be amazed by.
Yeah, definitely. I was totally blown away when I came home and saw these big old pepper bushes. Like, whoa, how did that happen? I mean, they look like shrubs. So thank you, Woody. I guess it'll all work out the way it's supposed to, huh?
Yes, that's exactly right. And you learned a lesson, so maybe you'll start pruning your pepper plants moving forward.
Yeah, maybe.
And, like I said, it's a personal choice. It's kind of like your favorite color.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, we are kind of having a mild summer for us here. I mean, we've definitely been in the hundreds with the 100% humidity, but it really, I mean, we've done that like 2 months in a row before, and it's just awful. Like, you can't even enjoy your garden, but we've had many days, like in the 80s and, having a little breeze, and it's definitely a lot more fun this year. So I have faith that my seeds will come up and produce my delicious watermelons and cantaloupes and stuff in time. I hope. I don't know. I saw some of my new seedlings sprouted today, and oh, you're so cute. Cute little babies. If I can keep the squash bugs at bay, then I'll end up with fruit, but it won't be till October. Oh, goodness. This is funny. I just saw a comment in the chat. I don't know exactly what we were talking about at the time, but she said, I can see Christie walking around the garden and saying, WTF is this? Let's smoke it and see. That's great. You know me well, people. Oh, goodness. Okay, so you also have an article about harvesting squash on your website. This is one of the new ones here. When to harvest squash, the best time to pick winter or summer squash. So, I hear the music. So how about we talk about that after this short break, everyone. Stay tuned. Heather Rhoades of GardeningKnowHow.com here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
Welcome. It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Yo, what's up? Check this out.
The voice of the revolution. American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Oh my God, you guys did it again. Okay, yes, Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Our special guest tonight, Heather Rhoades of GardeningKnowHow.com. And, oh man, you guys are going to expect me to tell you what we're laughing at, huh? If you do have any questions or comments or would like to, just give us a call. The phone number is 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. Or you can join us for the text chat at souljourneysradio.com. And we left off. We were going to start talking about squash and when to harvest it and all of that good stuff. So, is it squash season for you yet, honey?
Not quite. Well, it depends on how you feel about squash. There are some people who like to harvest their squash, little tiny baby squash. They are very tender, but you get very little of it. Some people like medium-sized squash, and we're not quite to that season yet here. And then some people like baseball bats for zucchini bread and baseball games. So we're definitely not into that season yet here. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when does squash usually come in for you all?
Well, like I said, right now we're getting the little tiny baby ones. So if you're looking for that really tender summer squash, that's coming in right now. In our area. Medium size, it'll be another week, 2 weeks, we'll get those.
Oh, good.
And those are the size that the medium size are what you're going to see at your grocery store typically.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the ones you forget about, or you didn't see under that big giant leaf.
Yeah, that turn into baseball bats.
That turn into baseball bats. And it's funny, I meet a lot of people who think you're supposed to harvest them at that size.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not. You can. They won't kill you or anything. But the longer you leave summer squash on the vine, or on the bush, the tougher that they get, the stringier that they get, and the more bitter that they get. So, that's the hard question with summer squash is, when do you harvest? And again, it's a personal choice. You can harvest them smaller. You won't get as much from the plant, but they are sweeter and more tender.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like new potatoes. You can grow potatoes and you can harvest them at the little tiny stage and they're very tender and sweet. But you're going to get, a handful compared to like the 5 pounds if you wait, another couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, so it's not like, if you pick it, then it kind of triggers to the plant to grow some more. It's just the squash plants grows the same amount, whether they're 2 ounces or 20 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, they do. I mean, that's part of the reason you don't want to let them get to baseball bat size. A plant is programmed to produce seeds. Mm-hmm. That's its only goal. Okay. No matter what our goals are as human beings, a plant's goal is to produce seeds. Mm-hmm. When you harvest them teeny tiny and they're, very tender and very sweet, the plant will pick up production. If you harvest them at medium size, the seeds are not yet mature, so you get the same results.
Okay.
If you wait until they get to baseball bat size, the plant says, it's kind of like, that middle-aged couple with 5 kids. They're like, we've produced enough.
Yeah.
And we're going to stop now.
Okay.
So it's a choice. You certainly will get the poundage out of a plant, if you let them get to baseball bat size, you won't get the quality. If you pick them at that middle size that you see them typically at the grocery stores, you'll get the quality and the production. You get that nice balance of the two.
Yeah.
If you pick them smaller, you're going to get less poundage, but you're going to get much higher quality squash.
Okay. Okay, but not necessarily more.
Not necessarily more. The plant will produce more, but if you're picking them at 4 inches, there's just not much poundage there. And there's only so many flowers that a plant can produce.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. So whether you pick them at 2 ounces or at 20 pounds, you're still going to get the same number. Just, higher volume depending on how long you let them grow.
If you pick them at 4 inches or you pick them at 8 inches, you're probably going to get about the same number of squash.
Okay.
Because the seeds inside are not mature yet.
Okay.
When that plant goes into maturity, which is where they get, the baseball bat size, the seeds go into maturity and the plant starts to shut down its flower production.
Oh.
So you'll get more poundage, but you'll actually get fewer squash.
Oh, okay.
And the poundage, you get more of it, but it's a lower quality of food. So, it's probably, if you want to make zucchini bread until you die from old age, feel free to let them get to baseball bat size.
Yeah, they're perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know, people say that they get bitter and all of that stuff when they're big, but I've never really experienced that. They taste good to me.
Yeah, it's much more subtle with summer squash than it is with, say, eggplant.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty subtle. There is a flavor difference.
Okay.
But, again, most of the time when you let them get really big, the things you're using it for are so different.
Yeah.
So the flavor difference isn't going to be as much of a factor.
Okay.
If you get little tiny summer squash, whether it be zucchini, yellow squash, any of those, you're probably going to slice them up and fry them, right? Somebody hands you, the baseball bat, and you're making zucchini bread and maybe faux apple pie.
Oh, wow. You're going to have to teach us a new recipe. I've never heard of that. Okay, so you can use zucchini to make a faux apple pie.
Yeah, actually, you can use, if you get those baseball bat size ones, it has a texture very much like apples. You can go online and look up the recipe.
True.
I can't think of the recipe off the top of my head, but it's basically apple juice and using zucchini instead of apples. You can make an apple or a zucchini cobbler or a zucchini pie that tastes a lot like an apple pie and has the same texture and consistency.
Wow, what a great idea. I never would have thought of that. I use it for bread or pancakes or last year when I had so much, I tried out 479 brand new casserole recipes that popped in my head just because, what else can I do with grated zucchini, right? But it was great. I never would have thought of pie in a million years. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, go online. I said I can't think of the recipe off the top of my head. I've made it before. I know it involves apple juice. But go online, faux apple pie with zucchini. You'll find lots of recipes that allow you to do that.
Okay, excellent. Good to know. And you know what? I was also noticing and kind of wondering, why do we eat pumpkin seeds but not butternut seeds? Or why not zucchini or squash seeds? Because, when you grow your own and you're grading or doing whatever, I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like, let's taste this and see what's up, right? And they're absolutely delicious. They're super sweet and yummy. And so why don't people roast or eat their squash types? I mean, why only pumpkin?
You know, and for the same reasons people don't realize that butternut squash makes a better pumpkin pie than pumpkin does. So
Okay.
people just don't think of it. Actually, it was funny. It's a funny thing. My kids and I were talking about this today because they asked me, you know, why don't we use Halloween pumpkins to make pumpkin pie? And we were talking about how much we love pumpkin pie. And I said, well, Halloween pumpkins don't actually make great pumpkin pie. You have to get sugar pumpkins, pie pumpkins for that. And even then, pie pumpkins aren't all that great for pumpkin pie either. Most of the time when you buy those cans of pumpkin pie or pumpkin, that you make pumpkin pie with, that's actually Hubbard squash.
I've heard that. It's not even real pumpkin, but we all think that, yeah.
The definition of pumpkin's pretty broad. A pumpkin is a hard squash. Hubbard squash and butternut squash actually make for a better pie than pumpkin does.
Okay. Wow. Well, learn something new every day. It's just these silly little rules, and we're allowed to eat this but not that, and we eat that and not that, and it's like, why? It's all edible. It can all be delicious. It's time to break the rules, people. Especially if you're growing your own, no reason you can't experiment and just see, have fun with it. I know I do, but it's impossible for me to not have fun though. So hang on everyone. I'm going to go have some fun for a few short minutes while we take a little break here, get the advertisers paid, and we will be back at the top of the second hour here with Heather Rhoades of gardeningknowhow.com. Stay tuned.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back. Top of the second hour here tonight with Heather Rhoades of gardeningknowhow.com. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. And we left off, we were talking about squash and seeds and Hubbards and pumpkins and butternuts and all that good stuff. And also zucchinis the size of baseball bats. So a question came in, Heather. They were asking, do the baseball bat-sized ones have more or less nutrients?
They don't have less nutrients, but the tougher they get, the harder it is for your body to digest the food to get the nutrients back out. And this is true with almost any fruit or vegetable. The bigger and tougher they get, the harder it is for your body to get the nutrients back out of them. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's why human beings excelled at some point in time, is because we learned to cook foods, which helps to break down those walls. But if you're a person who follows a raw diet or something like that, it is something you need to be aware of.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
So, the more mature a fruit or vegetable is, the harder it is for your body to get the nutrients back out of it. So if you're on a raw diet, try to go for younger vegetables and fruits. And when I mean younger, I mean like, your smaller squash rather than your baseball bats and things like that. So, if you're cooking, it's probably not going to make a significant difference. But if you're following a raw diet, it is something to be aware of.
Okay, excellent. All right, thanks for bringing that up. You've posted so many new articles, morning glories and bulbs and all my favorite stuff, but I'd kind of like to try to stick to food here. Don't get me carried away on the beautiful flowers. So potatoes, I don't know when it's time for you to harvest potatoes where you live, but down here, it's definitely time. So let's talk about potatoes and when it is right to harvest and how to harvest.
Again, you do have a sort of personal choice with potatoes. You can go for new potatoes, which are going to be sweeter and more tender, and you're going to get less production out of the plants. And you can start looking for those, right around the time that you just start to see a little bit of yellow. Start looking for those new potatoes. Even before that, you can dig away a little bit of the soil and look see what size the potatoes are at. Once your foliage starts to yellow and flop over, then it's time to start looking to see if it's time to harvest. I know mine is yellowing this right now, so this coming weekend I will be harvesting all of my potatoes. That's really your best time. You do also have a thing with potatoes. You have early, mid, and late potatoes. I actually planted all three kinds of potatoes. So early is probably about this time you're going to be harvesting. Mid is going to be another month or so. Late is going to be another month after that.
Okay. All right, but if you just go by the foliage, by the time they turn yellow and fall off, that pretty... Darn it. Let's see. Am I back?
I think you
are.
are.
Back? Oh, okay.
We lost you!
Yeah, you did. I guess so. Shoot. I was asking, I don't know exactly where I dropped out, but in regards to the potatoes, if we just follow the foliage and wait till they turn yellow and die off, then
right.
That's, dates really don't matter. We can just pay attention
right.
to the foliage, right?
Pay attention to the plants. Yeah, because like I said, it's going to depend on what kind. They're, different potato varieties are either early, mid, or late. And we either have an article on that or we have one coming out very soon about that. I'm not sure if it's been published yet. I do know it's been written. I just don't know if it's been published. About that, those kind of distinctions with potatoes. And again, like we were talking about with heirlooms, if you're going to plant potatoes, take some time to look at whether they're an early, mid, or late. Choose 3 varieties, and then you get potatoes over a longer period of time rather than all at once. And potatoes, while they store well, they do have a certain extra good flavor when they're first harvested. So that's why it's a good idea to kind of grow them so that they're gonna produce over a season rather than all at once.
Okay, now what if you miss a few potatoes or you just don't feel like harvesting them for whatever reason? Does that mean you have double the potatoes next year?
It depends on where you live. If you have a climate that the soil does not freeze, yeah, that's very possible.
Okay. Yeah, my first time planting potatoes was, I don't know, a few years ago. And, well, actually, that's not true. I did not plant them. They were just there in the compost that ended up being in the soil, and there was this new foliage I had never seen before. And I'm like, whoa, That's a potato. Okay. And then, the foliage died away. I didn't know anything about it and I let them sit there. And then the following year, I actually planted them. And since I planted them, I knew what they looked like. And so I went back to the other place because I saw that same foliage where I guess they were going from the compost and I ended up with double potatoes.
Yeah, if you either live in an area where the ground doesn't freeze, or a compost pile it is technically a microclimate, because if you keep a proper compost pile, it will stay heated. You could end up with more potatoes. I know here you have to be careful growing Jerusalem artichokes or sunchokes, depending on which term you want to use.
Okay.
Because we don't get cold enough to kill them. And a single sunchoke can actually produce up to 20 pounds of tubers in a season.
Oh, wow.
So you get, one tuber produces 20 pounds, and then if you don't harvest them, next year you get 20 times 20.
Yeah.
So, and the next
Wow.
thing you know, your entire garden is taken over by them.
Uh-huh. So they'll just keep on growing.
Yes.
Okay.
And the same thing, you're not going to get it to the extent with potatoes. They're not as hardy as sunchokes, but the same thing will happen. If your ground doesn't freeze, there's a good chance that those potatoes will survive and be able to grow again next year.
Okay. All right, honey, I have a super important question coming in from the chat. This is from our newfie, and he needs to know what you're wearing.
Oh, let's see. I'm wearing pajama bottoms as usual. No, I'm always wearing pajama bottoms. They're very comfortable.
Right.
And they're black and gray plaid, And I'm wearing a T-shirt that says Digital Angel, and the back of it has little angel wings that are made out of what looks like circuit board.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Okay, you passed. So I think he said something earlier. Well, isn't it too hot for her? She should just take it off anyways. I don't know. Maybe we'll just do a segment naked one day.
I'd say, the pajama bottoms, believe it or not, if you shop properly, pajama bottoms are very, free-flowing and cool and, nice to have around in the summertime. So.
All right. So here's the next question. Not quite as important as what you're wearing, of course. But she was talking about companion planning, and so I asked, well, which specifically? Because we could, probably talk on the show for 12 hours to go through everything. But she was wondering in general, which veggies hate each other the most? Like how, yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's anything that hates each other really badly in one season.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to plants hating each other, it's passive aggressive and over a long period of time.
Okay. So, all right.
For example, squash and corn is perfectly fine to plant together for one season.
Okay.
Planting them together over several seasons completely decimates the soil.
Oh, okay. But then that's where we get into crop rotation.
Right.
Okay.
Because both corn and squash, as a matter of fact, we were talking earlier about nitrogen, too much nitrogen in the soil. Mm-hmm. You want to get rid of nitrogen in the soil, plant squash.
Oh, okay.
It won't produce for you well, but it will suck all of the nitrogen out of the soil. As does corn.
Okay.
So, you could plant them together like in a Three Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I am personally not a religious person, but in the Bible it talks about, 7 years and fallow, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a common sense to that.
Yeah.
That allows the soil to regenerate itself. So, be aware of plants' nutritional needs. George Washington Carver, the reason he's considered to be the savior of Southern farming was because He figured out that peanuts replenish what cotton took away. So rotating, very important. Just think long term on what plants do to the soil and what diseases they're affected by.
Okay. So
we've been
like
talking about-
planting a tomato and a squash right next to each other isn't really gonna hurt, or it's not gonna kill them. You're just not gonna experience the same benefits of planting tomato, basil, and peppers together, or corn, squash, and beans together.
Right, for one season.
Okay.
But again, if you plant corn, beans, and squash in the same spot season after season, you may see some problems.
Okay.
Beans do put it back in the soil, but they're most beneficial if you, till everything under.
Okay.
But corn and squash, they're extremely hard on soil. So that, for that reason, it's important to rotate. And if you look at Native American practices, they did a lot to make sure that those plants got all the nutrients that they needed, that fish dropped in the hole, that sort of thing. And you need to just be aware of that, when planting, your garden. You also need to be aware of diseases. So, planting peppers and tomatoes together is not a bad thing for one season.
Yeah.
If you plant tomatoes in the spot one year and peppers in that spot the next year and the eggplant in that spot the next year and potatoes in that spot the next year, you're going to start to have disease problems.
Okay.
Because they're all from the same family.
Yeah. And so they all attract the same type of pests, bugs, etc.
Right. So while you feel like you're rotating, you're not really, because they're still in the same family.
Oh, okay. So even if, all right, for example, like I rotated this year, I had my corn, squash, and beans in one bed and the tomato, I switched those this year. So two totally different beds, but you're saying it's probably not that smart to do that for long periods.
Well, no, that's okay because those are actually 3 or 4 different families at this point in time.
Okay.
Research your families. Again, we have an article on the website. You can go to the website and understand that plants belong to different families. Mm-hmm. I guess, a sort of good analogy would be you don't want inbreeding.
Oh?
You don't want the same families growing in the same house year after year.
Okay.
And while you can't get a pepper tomato or whatever, peppers and tomatoes are in the same family. They're cousins. Mm-hmm. So you don't want them in the same bed all of the time.
Okay.
Sometimes people feel like, well, I planted tomatoes there one year and then eggplant there the next year and then peppers there the next year and then potatoes there the next year. That's 4 different plants over 4 years and you feel like you've rotated. Mm-hmm. But you haven't.
Okay.
Because all 4 of those plants belong to the same family.
Yeah, okay, I see it. All right. So yeah, it's not just about companion planting, but also rotation.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing. Here's another question they asked on the chat. He says, what types of spices should I grow? I'm a new hunter and cooking mainly with wild game. Keep that in mind. Okay, so I guess we're assuming that he wants to know what type of herbs to grow to make his wild game tasty.
I would say, first of all, people need to understand there's a difference between herbs and spices.
Okay.
Herbs are leafy, spices are seedy. So,
okay.
Most of what most people in the United States can grow are herbs. Mm-hmm. It's the leafy stuff. The seedy stuff, we can grow a little bit of that in some of the United States, but most of that is more exotic, which is why the whole spice trade was a big thing during the Renaissance era.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't typically grow in temperate climates. So oops, I think we need to wait. I will discuss more of this when we come back.
We're going to leave you on a cliffhanger, Mr. Deer Hunter, so hang on. We will be back after this short break. Stay tuned. Heather Rhoades of Gardening Know-How here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom
Oh, yes, I like very much.
Radio.
They're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here tonight. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We are speaking with Heather Rhoades of GardeningKnowHow.com, where her and another team of gardening experts help answer all of your questions on various gardening topics. I know we are mainly focusing on food here right now, but they cover everything from houseplants to roses, to different diseases or environmental problems, pests, weeds, etc. So check it out. That's at gardeningknowhow.com. And we left off with a deer hunter asking what type of herbs or spices he should grow. I'm assuming to go with his deer. He says wild game. And he also let us know on the break that he's in Canada. So that kind of, I guess that helps us narrow things down. So what do you got for him?
I would say, I think in that area, you're going to be looking at more herbs. You can do spices like coriander, which is the seeds of the cilantro.
Mm-hmm.
Sage certainly will do well there. Rosemary, that's great for wild game.
Oh, yeah.
Oregano. I will say again, if you're just starting out with herbs, start with plants. Don't go with seeds other than basil. Basil is the only one I recommend starting from seed.
Yeah.
If you're just starting out with herbs, they're a little tricky to get started. See here, he's asking about turmeric. Turmeric is actually a relative of ginger, and we were just talking about ginger on the break.
We were.
So it will not grow in the ground where you live in Canada. It would need to be in a container. Turmeric is a little bit more difficult than ginger to grow, and ginger is actually very easy to grow in container. There's that.
He also asked about garlic.
Garlic, certainly. You can do garlic. Garlic you're going to plant in the winter or the late fall, and you're going to harvest in spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have to get the delicious garlic scapes. I actually have a big bunch of garlic scapes in my produce drawer right now.
Yeah, and you can use that. You don't have to wait to harvest the garlic.
Right.
Just keep clipping and...
there's that. It's one of those things that when you say spices, you start to get into, you're going to be greenhousing and, that sort of thing. And that's not what most people want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to stick to herbs. and I think that would be your best bet. Certainly, and of course you don't want to discount things like, peppers and tomatoes, when cooking with wild game. Especially, the hot peppers.
Yeah.
They can add some really nice flavor to your wild game dishes. So.
All right. Well, I hope that helps them get started. I've never had basil with wild game, but why not?
I said basil just because, they're talking about growing herbs. Basil probably wouldn't work too well with wild game. Just because basil is a very delicate herb. It's something you have to add in at the very last minute. Otherwise the flavors get destroyed. So, if you have something like wild game, which typically needs a little bit more tender loving care while cooking, a lot more time, you need something that's going to be able to stand up, and that's rosemary, sage, oregano, anything that you would typically find in an Italian, spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, thyme, parsley, it all tastes good.
Right, exactly. Those type of flavors are gonna hold up to cooking wild game.
Okay, yeah, and you know what, since we're talking about it, I guess I'll just let y'all know right now, I have like 250 recipes, and I know most of you think, she doesn't eat meat, she doesn't know what she's talking about, but let me tell you, 30-something years of meat, so my recipes are not all vegan or vegetarian. There's everything on there from deer to woodchuck. So, and they are pretty gourmet. So, one thing I've learned, especially for meats like that, if you like it super, super tender, like melting in your mouth, falling off, oh man. Yeah, I can taste it right now. The best way that I've found to cook them is, I always use vegetables. I call them the standards. I'll use potatoes, carrots, garlic, onion, celery, and then all the herbs that Heather had just mentioned. But the key for that tender, falling off the bone and, melting in your mouth is the longer you cook it, the better. So let's say you want, your deer to be like medium. I think that's somewhere around like 145 degrees. You will cook it. You'll set the oven at 145 for like 24 hours. And, I like to cook it in beer and wine. Of course, sea salt and all the vegetables. But keep in mind, if you are going to cook something for 24 hours, you don't want to put the potatoes, carrots, celery, all that stuff in right away. And, I've learned all that the hard way, so, you can add those a little bit later, and, they'll soak up the juice, but anyways, so there's a few tips, and if you need recipes, let me know. You can check them out on my Facebook page or whatever.
Yeah, anytime you're tackling a tough piece of meat, I just made pulled pork this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you're tackling a tough piece of meat, low and slow is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. Same with woodchuck, in fact. It's so funny. I was actually listening to a show with hunters, survival types, and they have, they raise their own meat and everything. And I just tuned in to hear him say, well, I've never found a way to make a woodchuck or raccoon or squirrel or any of these things taste good. They're all tough and gamey and, they didn't really like it. They just ate it because they're not going to kill something and not eat it. And, anyways, so I did find the secret for that. I marinated him for 2 full days. And I marinated him in beer, garlic, black sea salt, and some herbs, and then cooked him in the beer and everything, boiled him off the bone. That was another 24-hour process before I pulled the meat off the bone and actually prepared the meal. So, yeah, keep that in exactly what Heather said. Low and slow. Marinate it. Take your time. Pray, honor it. And I'm telling you, anyone who's ever eaten any of my so-called wild gamey food has never tasted that in there. In fact, they don't even know the difference between woodchuck, deer, or beef. So, all right. So yeah. And you know what? I was just thinking, oh my God, how did we start talking about this? This is a gardening show, but sometimes, in your garden, it's the critter or the garden, right?
I was going to say, we had an extensive conversation about, if these animals are going to eat our plants, what choice do we have?
Yeah, absolutely. It's better than just killing them and, doing nothing, right? Or putting them in somebody else's garden. That would be totally rude. So,
right.
All right. So, getting back to some of the topics you have. Okay, we did the potatoes. That's right. Okay. Gosh, you know what? I do kind of want to talk about the bulbs, heat-loving bulbs. You posted that on your site here recently. And if you have any other vegetable or herb or whatever questions, just let us know in the chat or call in. In the meantime, I happen to have a lot of bulbs, beautiful bulbs in my garden. Elephant ears, caladium, gladiolas, and such. So maybe we can talk about those as well, especially in this hot climate.
Yeah, it's one of those things for the southern or hot climate gardener. It's, we here in the north, while we have our winter that we have to put up with, we get rewarded with tulips and daffodils and hyacinth. The southern garden or the warmer climate garden, it's a little harder to grow those plants. And those bulbs. Okay. But that doesn't mean you can't grow bulbs, and it doesn't mean that we northerners can't be jealous of you, down in the south.
Yeah.
So, one of the basic, I guess, bulbs that people always think of in warmer climates is gladiola. They are beautiful, easy to grow. If you're in a warmer climate, you can plant it and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get beautiful spires of flowers, year after year.
Okay.
Some of the other types of bulbs for warmer climates, I like, one that it's not necessarily a flower, but I love to plant it, is elephant ear.
Oh, I love my elephant ears.
My children, it is a type of caladium, it depends on the type you buy. Some of them are caladium and some of them are taro. So, those are always fun to plant. I know that, when we went to Florida this past October, I was literally contemplating crossing a field to a patch of wild elephant ear, and the leaves were literally larger than I was. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't sure how I was going to dig them out of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, dahlias are another popular one for areas that get a lot of warm weather. Here in the north, we plant dahlias. We have to dig them back up. We have to store them. In the south, you can put them in and they just keep growing.
Yes.
So
usually,
you have issues, and you can grow the more traditional spring bulbs. It just requires you to, same as I have to dig up my elephant ears and I have to dig up my gladiolas. If you live in the south, you have to dig up your daffodils, your tulips, your hyacinths, and you package them up and you put them in the bottom drawer of your refrigerator, and then you replant them in early spring, because they need that cold. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. So while the bulbs might grow better in the northern climates, you have that extra work of having to dig them out and wrap them up and then replant, where we don't. They're just not maybe as vibrant as what you would get.
It depends. Being in the ground year round, they're going to use up a lot more nutrients. So, the soil tends, here in the north, when I dig up my gladiolas and I bring them in, when I replant them, they get a, nice dose of fertilizer when they go back in the ground. That may not happen in the south.
Okay.
'Cause you plant it and forget it, right? You don't think about it. Same thing with my elephant ears. Although, from what I've seen, elephant ears, huge.
Yeah.
So, you've got to remember to fertilize them. Even though they're in the ground year after year, you still have to remember that they need their blood meal. They need, something to help them, store their energy. So it doesn't, it doesn't mean you have to have a less spectacular, display. You just have to be more aware of what they need in the long term.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I always wonder, gosh, in the north, the beautiful tulips and lilies, and we get some of it here, but it's not nearly as vibrant as it is for y'all up there.
Well, yeah, and I think, oh God, how great it would be that I didn't have to go dig up all my gladiolas.
That's true. Oh, goodness. It is that time. So hang on, everyone. We will be right back. Stay tuned. Heather Rhoades here on SoulJourneysRadio.com.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
News and information you can trust. This is American Freedom Radio. Freedom, American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Right, welcome back. Last segment here tonight with Heather Rhoades on SoulJourneysRadio.com. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And let's see, we got a question here, Heather, and I don't think any of us know what she's talking about, but if somebody was going to know, it would be you.
Okay.
So a question I got was, do you have any ideas or tricks in keeping garden pests and critters away from our bounty? We're getting those bugs that curl up into a ball trying to eat our tomatoes.
She has the same problem you do.
You think it's roly-polies?
I think it's roly-polies.
But eating big tomato plants?
If they don't have anything else, or if their population due to, if she's mulching, I could see she has an excessive population. You were talking about how much they were affecting your plant.
Initially, but not this late in the year. They like the little babies, but not the big ones.
I think it sounds like roly-polies. She's talking about them rolling up into a ball when you touch them.
Uh-huh.
Little armored balls, I think she even says, doesn't she?
I think so. Yeah, little armored okay, so maybe that's all right. Well, we got you covered, girlfriend.
And they're roly-polies. They normally 90. We've talked about this a lot because you had a problem with them. Normally, 90% of the time, roly-polies, they're actually related to lobsters.
Yeah,
they're a crustacean.
I wonder if they taste like lobsters. Like, should we start eating them too?
Bake them into rolls or something have crustaceans. I don't know. So, but they, typically they don't bother live plants. They prefer dead material. If you get a population of them, just like with any other type of animal, if you get a population of them that gets bigger than the local food source can support, they'll start wandering, and then they start attacking your live plants.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if your tomatoes are touching the ground. I am wondering if she's talking about them going. They are kind of lazy, so they don't normally climb.
Yeah.
So if they're affecting your tomatoes, you might not have staked them or, strung them up or caged them. And this is why you would want to stake them or cage them, is to get them off the ground so those kind of pests can't get to them. Plus with tomatoes, once the plant starts to fall over, it starts to slow its growth. It's a plant that actually is meant to grow upwards. Their natural environment is to grow up a tree. They developed in South America, in tropical rainforest conditions. So, they're one of those plants that would start growing at the base of a tree and grow up very rapidly up the outside of the tree to where the sunshine was.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of people are like, oh, just let them sprawl on the ground. When you get pest problems like this, you get less growth. So, if you're not caging, staking, stringing your tomatoes, consider it.
Okay.
If they are climbing, then you have a really serious population.
It probably is roly-polies. How funny. I'm like, what do you mean, hornworm? I couldn't figure out what she was talking about.
If they are climbing the plant, you're probably getting a pretty serious population. Because they are crustaceans, they do need moisture to survive. So it may be that you're keeping your garden just a little bit too wet. And you're using, I'm guessing you're also using a wood mulch. Because that's the decayed material that they would have originally started to establish a family on.
Yeah.
For next year, think about switching to a straw mulch. It's not as heavy. There's not as much decayed material for them to live off of. It dries out faster, so it's a not as friendly environment for them to live in.
Okay.
It's not as pretty. I know when we posted our article on using straw mulch, that's what somebody posted. Well, my garden's in the front yard. I can't put straw. It's not as pretty, but it is more effective for keeping down pests such as roly-polies.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you mentioned the let it dry out thing, and I did that for a few days, and that really helped reduce the slugs and roly-polies, and, then I started removing debris or, mulch that was directly up against the plants and kind of scooted that out. Of course, I used a million other things though too. From the DE to the coffee grounds to the eggshells to what else did I use? Oh, cayenne, of course. In fact, I used, oh my gosh, every hot thing I could find. Cinnamon, mustard. I ground them all up together with DE because I figure, well, if it's going to get wet, and the DE is going to deactivate, at least there's, something super hot that they're not going to like. But, yeah, oh darn, yeah, those are not fun infestations, because they were just those cute little bugs that everybody liked. They never hurt a soul until this season, when I ended up with 9 billion of them.
It's like many things in nature, as long as they're kept in balance, they aren't damaging. I mean, I hate deer. I hate them.
Oh,
but if we had a normal balance here, they wouldn't be so devastating to our area.
Yeah.
But we've wiped out the coyote, we've wiped out the wolf, and the deer population has gotten out of control. The same thing can happen in your garden with the roly-polies. They're cute and adorable when they're kept in check. When you keep your garden moderately watered and, that sort of thing. But when their population explodes, they want to eat, and they're going to eat your garden. So.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Goodness. We're almost done here. We've got about 3 minutes left. Oh, it went too fast. Yeah. So, okay, what else do we need to know this time of year?
This time of year, water. If you're experiencing an area that's in drought, think about gray water. Mm-hmm. You take showers, you cook food, you wash dishes. That water is not bad. It can go out in your garden, So, just because you're in drought does not mean you can't water your plants. It just means you have to be a little creative about it.
Yeah.
If you're on the opposite end, you're getting too much, you need to start thinking about how to improve the drainage in your yard. If you don't have raised beds, start making those plans for next year. If you are getting a lot of water, you need to keep your eye on things like root rot. Root rot can establish pretty quickly if your gardens are flooded. My particular garden has that problem. We have raised beds, which help, keep that problem to a minimum, but it's not uncommon if we get 3 or 4 days in a row of rain that it just looks like I have islands of vegetables in my vegetable garden. So, if you have containers, you do need to keep in mind, water once a day. Twice a day if your temperatures get over 85.
Okay.
So, if you want big, beautiful plants in containers, that's very important to remember.
Okay. You know what, honey? I know we only have like a minute and a half left, but a question just came in. She didn't like my answer. She asked, how do I eat the squirrels away? Of course, I said eat them, but maybe in the time remaining, you can give some better information.
Squirrels, like deer, are very clever, so they adapt quickly. You need to rotate your the way you're dealing with them. Some ways you can do it is predator urine, hot pepper, mothballs. All of these things can be used. CDs hung on strings help.
Oh yeah.
False predator things, like the plastic owls and hawks and that sort of thing. All of these things for squirrels will only be effective for a short period of time because they're pretty clever. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're swapping them out pretty regularly. Of course, if you're looking at a bird netting works well. If you're trying to keep them from your, bird netting is just like solution for everything. Mm-hmm. But it works well if you're trying to keep them from your vegetables and that sort of thing, and fruit. Put your bird netting up, and typically they have a hard time getting through that. So, get creative and make sure you switch it up.
Okay. All right. Well, very well said. That was a lot of information there. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight, Heather. And always the first Tuesday of every month. I realize today wasn't the first Tuesday, but sometimes, things happen. And we're going to get you in that once a month anyways. So thank you all for joining us.
It's time to get real and heal. MyTrueEssence.net would like to tell you about Modifiland brown seaweed extract. It's composed of an elementally rich seaweed called laminaria. It takes 40 pounds of laminaria to make just 1 pound of Modifiland. There's nothing else like Modifiland. It is the richest in alginate, fucoidin, organic iodine, and lamarian. Alginates are the most effective organic element in nature that enable the body to rid itself of heavy metals, radioactive elements, and toxins. Fucoidin is an extremely effective anti-cancer substance found abundantly in brown seaweed. Organic iodine is the greatest protection for the thyroid offered by nature. Laminarin aids in the prevention and treatment of cardiovascular disease. Go to www.mytrueessence.net and click the Modifiland banner to get started on your path to rich health today. Also check out the Healing Shop for proven essential oils, medicinal teas, and even health coaching. It's time to get real and heal. Go to www.mytrueessence.net.
Get real and heal. Listen to Christie on Soul Journeys Radio.
You're listening to the future of talk. American Freedom Radio. This is American Freedom Radio.